In Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine tells Anakin of a Sith Lord powerful enough to save those he cared about from the grasp of death itself. However, he explains to the Jedi Knight the irony of the ultimate fate of this Dark Lord, that he was capable of saving others from death, but not himself. Later it was revealed Palpatine himself was in fact the Lord of the Sith, and the apprentice to this legendary Dark Lord, as well as the man who killed him. But what if this had not happened? What if after luring his master Plagueis to Coruscant and getting him extremely drunk, when Palpatine raised his arms to electrocute and kill his master, something stayed his hand? A feeling of almost fear ruling without Plagueis, who had taught the soon-to-be Chancellor so much and brought the Sith so far. In a moment of weakness, or perhaps even sentiment for his master, Palpatine himself would lower his arms, retiring to his home for the night, leaving his master to the sleep he had feared for years. The next day, Palpatine would be elected Chancellor of the Republic, and upon his election, select Higo Damask of the banking clan to govern by his side as co-chancellor, secretly Palpatine's own master, Plagueis. This unexpected election would be a strange one, but Palpatine would explain Damask was a genius of his trade, and in exchange for his election, he would agree to govern over the finances of the Republic, and bring them to fortune they had only dreamed of prior. Behind the scenes, the two Sith would begin to pull the strings that would ultimately culminate in the Clone Wars. However, they would run into a problem. The Sith assassin who had been trained by Sidious, named Maul, was killed during the Naboo crisis. This greatly worried Plagueis, but Palpatine assured him he had another in mind that would serve as a stepping stone to the young chosen one, Anakin Skywalker. As Sidious began constructing the seeds of the Jedi's demise, Plagueis would walk the halls of the Senate, sickened by the sight of such haughty and inferior beings, but with all it paling in comparison to his loathing of the Jedi Order. Plagueis would often find himself meeting with the young Skywalker, displaying interest in him similar to the way he had another prodigy he had felt many years earlier on Naboo. Anakin too would begin to admire the intelligence of Plagueis, and his knowledge over what would seem to him like everything. Over several years, the two would form a strong friendship. Anakin would often confide in the secret Dark Lord of his inner ambitions and desires to save everyone. Plagueis too would share his vision of a perfect galaxy with the boy, one without war or death. In the next several years, the Republic would be thrown into the Clone Wars, an event that would utterly divide the galaxy. Secretly, both Plagueis and Palpatine would preside over the war, controlling it from the shadows. Eventually, the day would come when the Sith would conclude the public opinion of the Jedi had been diminished far enough, and their trust in the clones grown too strong. Plagueis would, however, suggest that before the rise of the new Empire, they truly test the skills of the Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker, and determine if he truly could be as powerful as hoped. This suggestion would infuriate Palpatine as their victory was on the horizon. Palpatine would look at his master, face curled in a shape of anger and frustration. "Master," Palpatine would say, "the Sith Code demand there only be two, a master and an apprentice. By bringing this boy into the fold, if he is truly to be trained and molded as a Sith Lord, we upset the balance that has brought us so far, the balance established by Lord Bane himself." Plagueis would turn to Palpatine. "Have you not trained another as a Dark Lord as we currently speak?" Palpatine, now wreathed with anger, would snap. "Dooku is a pawn. He has always been, and always will be, a pawn. A tool to be moved around, and eventually discarded, with no regret, with no sympathy. What you speak of is different. You speak of this child as a successor, not as a means to an end." To Palpatine's surprise, a grin would form on Plagueis' face. "My apprentice. If you only knew the irony. Originally, I myself desired to rule on my own, as the one true Lord of Darkness, demolishing the rule of two, as I once believed it had served its purpose. But then I found you, and an exception was made. If not for this exception, you would not be here now. Exceptions must be made. We are not Jedi. We do not limit ourselves to a set pattern. We have learned to adapt, change when necessary. And it is because of this change that we speak now in the building housed by the Senate, and not in the shadows of some far-off world, with only whispers to carry our words." Quick note here, Anakin arriving to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and being said to be made by the Force itself was a big deal, but it was never something Palpatine ever really dreamed of. Plagueis, on the other hand, was fascinated with it, to the point of almost obsession. Plagueis actually believed that his studies and manipulation of the midichlorians resulted in the birth of Anakin, so he would be of the utmost importance to him. Only after Plagueis' death in regular continuity did Palpatine adopt Anakin into his plans, but with Plagueis alive here, I believe the fascination would continue to the point where Palpatine actually becomes jealous of this boy. You see, originally Plagueis told Palpatine that once their empire rose, they would rule as equals, not master and apprentice, but two Sith with equal claim to the title of Dark Lord. However, this is not really the way of the Sith, at least the Rule of Two era Sith, and the contention you are seeing now is a result of 1. Jealousy, and 2. Backlash resulted by attempting to break the Rule of Two. The Sith up to this point have lived and literally died by the Rule of Two. It's ingrained in their DNA to a certain extent, and now we are witnessing the reworking of the Sith Order, as at this point the Sith really hold all of the cards. Their rise is pretty much inevitable, but the importance is how, or rather who, will rise. The events of Revenge of the Sith would now begin, with Grievous kidnapping the Chancellor, set by their own design, only this time the Chancellor kidnapped would be Damask, or Plagueis, curious to see the extent of Anakin's abilities in the ensuing rescue. As in regular continuity, Anakin and Obi-Wan would find the Chancellor on Grievous' ship, the Invisible Hand, only this time it would be Plagueis seemingly captured, not Palpatine. Dooku again would enter, and the three would begin their duel, playing out the same, with Obi-Wan knocked out, and Anakin slaying Dooku before Plagueis. Anakin would outstretch his hand, preparing to release the restraints of Plagueis, when suddenly, a cold feeling would wash over him. Not a feeling as a result of the death of Dooku, but something stronger than he had ever felt before. Behind him the blast doors would open. Anakin, now almost trembling, would turn. Plagueis, now more concerned than ever, would know what Anakin was feeling. He had felt it long ago himself on Naboo, and many days since. Through the doors a figure clad in black would exit. The room would almost go dark, the lights illuminating the faces of Plagueis and Anakin dimming. The figure would move slowly, but confidently down the steps leading to Anakin and Plagueis. Anakin, Plagueis would say, his voice less confident and shaky than the Jedi had ever heard. "We need to leave, Anakin. Release me, and let us leave this place." Anakin would stand, almost frozen. "Chosen One," the dark figure would say, "my master has long dreamt of your power, your potential. Because of you, my master has grown into a fool. He has focused on his left hand, and lost track of what his right was doing. He has become blinded." The figure would then remove his robe, revealing Palpatine. Palpatine slowly would remove 2 lightsabers from his belt, activating them, and twirling them in his palms. Suddenly, through the window, 2 clone fighters would appear, just beyond the Invisible Hand, heading right towards the blast doors. Plagueis' restraints would quickly unlatch, and he would yell for Anakin to run towards the nearest exit. Quick note, Plagueis was only really destroyed by Palpatine once he became very drunk, and trusted Palpatine too much. Plagueis seeing Palpatine's anger would allow him to better prepare for a possible betrayal. The 2 clone fighters would crash into the ship, and out of the corner of his eye, Plagueis could briefly see Palpatine raising his arms. Another note, Plagueis here has mind-dominated the 2 closest clone fighters, as I believe he would be aware Palpatine would likely destroy him in one-on-one combat. By forcing the clones to suicide bomb the ship, it gives Plagueis and Anakin time to escape, and also doesn't oust Plagueis as a Force user. This also shows great ingenuity on Plagueis' part, and a creative use of the Force, which he is known for. Plagueis is fully aware of his apprentice's power, and we will go on to see that this attack on behalf of Palpatine was actually expected by Plagueis, and that he will in fact use it to destroy his apprentice, without even having to touch blades with him. Anakin and Plagueis would flee the room. Just as the fighters crashed, the room would be engulfed in flames, as the blast doors behind the Jedi and Sith barely closed in time. Obi-Wan was in there, Anakin would say. "We must go, my friend, or we will never make it," Plagueis would respond. Obi-Wan met a just fate. The two would then quickly make their way back to Anakin's Jedi fighter, as Plagueis would secretly transmit a message to Grievous informing him to pull back from Coruscant, and that the battle was lost. Plagueis and Anakin would quickly descend to Coruscant, as Plagueis would immediately call the Senate into an emergency session. As Plagueis stood before the Senate, he would say the following: "It is with a heavy heart that I inform you that while I was in the custody of the Separatists, a plot to destroy us all was revealed to me." Footage of the room on the Invisible Hand would suddenly appear before the Senate. "My old friend showed his true colors today. Your co-chancellor." Footage would play of Palpatine descending towards Anakin and Plagueis. A Sith Lord. The footage would blur to Palpatine removing his lightsabers. Republic spies have hacked into the security of the Invisible Hand and given us this footage. The truth has been revealed. Note here, during their confrontation, Plagueis was very careful not to use the Force in any foreseeable way, using his mind to dominate the clones and make it appear as though the crash was accidental. He then informed the Senate of Palpatine's betrayal, ousting him as a Sith, while at the same time keeping his reputation clean and allowing him to take hold as the One Chancellor. He prepared for an attack like this, recording the events of the room when Palpatine would know him and Anakin would be in the same room, keeping him the only one aware the events were recorded. There has never been a darker time for the Republic, Plagueis would say. Only together will we make it through this black night. Plagueis would then end his speech, telling the Senate it was with a heavy heart that he shared this news, but that there may be hope yet. As Plagueis retired to his quarters, he would be met by Anakin. "My friend," Plagueis would say, "I am sorry about your friend. A noble Jedi until the end." "Thank you, Chancellor," Anakin would say. "I have learned of some good news amongst all this evil, though." "Oh?" Plagueis would say. "My wife," Anakin would go on. "My wife. She's pregnant." "Congratulations," Plagueis would respond. I just feel so cold," Anakin would comment. "Like something is wrong. I'm worried for Padme. I've already lost so much. With Obi-Wan gone, you're the only one left I trust." "What of the Jedi?" Plagueis would say. A brief pause. "They don't understand," Anakin would comment, looking towards the ground. Plagueis would place his hand on Anakin's shoulder. "I know, my friend. To me it appears as if they haven't for a long while now. We will speak of this later. For now, we must both rest." "You're right, Chancellor," Anakin would say, still staring at the floor. Once entering his home, a moment of pure joy would wash over Plagueis. Soon the galaxy will be mine, he thought. The Sith triumphant once again. Plagueis, though, would stop for a minute, feeling the urge to look through the Force. Search for his apprentice. In his mind, it would have been impossible to survive, but he had to know. Plagueis took a moment, searching for him, searching for Palpatine, but he would feel nothing. He could feel the clouded view of the Jedi, and his own power, and that left by Dooku. But nothing more. His apprentice was gone. A feeling that should have brought great joy to the Sith. But it did not. Plagueis thought back to his master's own death, and the death of the Sith Venomous. But he had felt a tremor when they finally left this galaxy. He remembered feeling the power they left, the dark side swirling. But at this moment, he felt nothing. He again thought back. He recalled this feeling of nothingness the first time he encountered his apprentice. Blocked by his power. Years ago, Palpatine had hid his power from the Dark Lord, and now sitting in his own home, the feeling of nothing surrounded him once more. He could find no trace of Palpatine, a fact that should have brought him comfort, but one that concerned him to his very core. He could not find Palpatine. He could not find Sidious. So that was, in my own opinion, what would happen if Palpatine never killed Darth Plagueis. I really hope you enjoyed, and I also hope you understand that the what ifs take a little more time to make than the regular explanation or news vids, and I hope you enjoy them when they do eventually come out. If you have suggestions for future what ifs, please feel free to comment them down below or tweet them at me at StupendousWave on Twitter. I do go through every single one, and I love to hear different ideas, and I do consider doing some. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. A lot of effort went into this video, and I would really appreciate it. If you have any other lore topics or questions you want answered, do not hesitate to tweet them at me, again, at StupendousWave on Twitter, or leave a comment, and I will try my best to answer or make a full video dedicated to that topic. Thanks so much again for watching. It means a lot. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.